And that's where I saw they had a Joker 2 in the big IMAX theater, so I went and saw it.
I am curious. You said you liked Joker 2. Please tell me why. Please tell us why.
The thing is, one, I really, really liked it. Really a lot. Like, tremendously. And I went to see it expecting to be impressed by the filmmaking. But I thought it was going to be an at-arm's length intellectual exercise that ultimately I wouldn't think worked like a movie, but I would appreciate it for what it is. And I'm just nihilistic enough to kind of enjoy a movie that doesn't quite work as a movie that's like a big, giant mess to some degree. And I didn't find it an intellectual exercise. I really got caught up into it. I really liked the musical sequences. I got really caught up. I thought the more banal the songs were, the better they were. I found myself listening to the lyrics of For Once in My Life in a way that I'd never heard them before. I thought, basically, it's not as indebted as it is to Taxi Driver, but as much as the first one was indebted to Taxi Driver, this seems pretty fucking indebted to Natural Born Killers, which I wrote. Not as indebted as Taxi Driver, but pretty fucking indebted. And that's the Natural Born Killers I would have dreamed of seeing. As the guy who created Mickey and Mallory, I loved what they did with it. I loved the direction he took. I mean, the whole movie was the fever dream of Mickey Knox. It was fantastic. Not only that, there's even a classical element. To me, the film was very, very similar to Peter Ebbinson, the George du Maurier novel, which they made into a movie. Henry Hathaway did it with Gary Cooper and Anne Harding, the grandfather of Daphne du Maurier. And it follows its storyline almost exactly. So it's a weird mix of Peter Ebbinson with, which is a beloved by the surrealist Peter Ebbinson. Yeah. So to me, all that worked. Now, on top of all that, I thought it was really funny. Now, it was a better situation being in an almost empty IMAX theater, so I could laugh without bothering everybody. I know I'm laughing at scenes that other people wouldn't be laughing at. But I thought it was really some really funny shit in there. But when he sang "If You Go Away," I was in tears. But actually, that song always makes me cry.
Yeah. I mean, there are some good songs in that movie that I don't quite understand why. Again, we mentioned this was touched upon earlier. I forgot what movie it was. Why you would cast non-singers in roles where I think it would have been more powerful if the Joker had imagined he had a voice like Michael Bublé or something like that, and that it wasn't. I thought the musical numbers were, except for when Lady Gaga sort of performs, kind of excruciating, and they kind of ruined the songs. They ruined the movie for me because Joaquin Phoenix is not a singer; he can't sing. We're supposed to find the drama in these moments. And
yeah, I thought he pulled it out. It's the same thing. It's the same thing that people said about It's different. It is different, but the same point applies. People said about what's his name in La La Land. Well, does he sing good? Well, it doesn't sing good, but he sounds like him.
Yes, but Ryan Gosling was a kid singer, so he did have the chops. I mean, he was singing all the time on Mickey Mouse. He had a band.
Actually, but I actually think, again, I don't think it, but I think it goes beyond an intellectual exercise. I actually think he sings the songs well enough in his non-singing way to commit to them as drama, as where the lyrics are his monologue, and I think it worked.
The scrappiness of his voice meets the scrappiness of the production.
What did you think about it, Roger?
I have a complicated relationship with the movie, and I'm still interpreting it because on one hand, it's a magnificently executed production.
No doubt.
And one expects that when you're spending $200 million making something. And on one hand, it's like, I was like, wow, this is amazing for a studio to be making this movie, which immediately makes me, Roger, Avary suspicious. Like, why are they making this movie? And okay, I get it that Joker was like a big hit, but I found myself extraordinarily troubled by the film. You know, we get movies and the movies are referencing our world and they inform the world, and they are in one way predictive programming for the world, and on the other way they're casting a reflection of everything so that we can, but this is the mythology of our time. And when I really look at what Joker ultimately is, I mean, on one hand, I love that I found it to be so insanely derivative, not just of Natural Born Killers, not just of Taxi Driver and King of Comedy with respect to the first one, but like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And it's derivative in ways that are weaponized. Like, I'm not saying that it's bad derivations. It's actually deftly handled. He knows what he's doing, and he's wielding them like weapons against us. It's like taking our cultural past and reforming it together with this kind of thesis statement about who we are culturally in this moment. And the part that troubled me the most was, in the end, effectively, the girl, Lady Gaga's character, she only wants Joker. She wants the creation that she's been making, this kind of the female, the wealthy, white female whose father is a lawyer who burned down her Paris apartment, is basically the one trying to tear the world down. And he is, a useful idiot to all of us. And I think this is the thesis that Todd Phillips is partly that he's making. And then on top of all of that, he's so deftly handling it as an origin story for the Heath Ledger Joker, which is I don't think it works. Which I think is incredible.
I don't think it works as an origin story at all. The only reason it works is because there's no Batman in it. All right,
but it is an origin story nonetheless.
No, it is an origin story, but
Heath Ledger's Joker specifically.
Well, no, I don't think it is. Okay, no, I do not think that the Arthur Fleck here is this mastermind who's going to be doing giant robberies of huge museums. The fact that he is not that, but he is not a Heath Ledger character.
No, he's the opposite. He runs from it. When they tell him, "Hey, we're gonna blow down the city," he jumps out of the moving car as fast as he can and runs as fast as he can from it. He wants nothing to do with that or to be a tool towards anarchy.
Yeah, but
and it's the other character who kills him in the end. That's Heath Ledger.
Oh, I hear your point. there.
That's Heath Ledger.
Oh,
he's literally cutting his face.
Yeah. No, I see your point. I see that. And
I thought that was actually rather deft.
That's a very good point. And I see the connection you just made.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that he is.
No, yeah,
you understand.
You described it really well. But also, I also think you guys are just taking it like way too seriously. I mean, one of the things about it also is
I liked the movie.
No, I'm not.
And I am taking it seriously.
No, it's
because of what it says. It's saying a fucking lot, and it's dumping that into our culture.
Yes. But another way you could say it that is maybe a little funner is that Todd Phillips is the Joker. The Joker directed the movie. The entire concept, even him spending the studio's money, he's spending it like the Joker would spend it. All right. And then his big surprise gift, the Jack in the Box, that when he offers you his hand for a handshake and you get a buzzer with 10,000 volts, shooting you, is the comic book geeks. He's telling fuck you to all of them. He's saying fuck you to the movie audience. He's saying fuck you to Hollywood. He's saying fuck you to everybody who owns any stock at DC and Warner Brothers. This is under the Clive Barker rules of subversion at a massive level. Joker 2 applies under that category, under every shape and form. And Todd Phillips is the Joker. Un film du Joker, all right, is what it is. He is the Joker. And in the first movie, look, the first movie was just all about as far as I was concerned, was all about the talk show scene. But the talk show scene is one of the best scenes made in the last 20 years of this century. Easily. The whole movie was worth it for that. And to see it in a crowded theater it was the way to see it.
It was exciting.
Because you saw everyone's being manipulated, everyone's being fucked over with, that's subversion at a massive level.
Pressurized. I felt pressurized in that theater. I felt pressurized.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Now, before that scene, I wasn't digging the movie that much. I was like, well, I go, so is this the world that we live in, that stories like Taxi Driver have to be regurgitated as comic book fodder in order to take something this seriously? Is this where we've come? So that was the monologue I was having with myself. And it was all really pretty fucking one-notey, all right, for like a long, long period of time. But then that scene was so great, all good. This was not so one note. Okay, and even when it comes to Joaquin's performance in the first one, it was for sure he was going to win the Oscar that year. I actually thought Leo should have won for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But there was no doubt he was going to win, and I guess he almost should have won because of you could just see the commitment of what it took him to do it. But I didn't love the performance that much. It was more about the commitment. I think he gives one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life in this movie.
You know who I love in this movie is Brendan Gleeson.
I
think he's more than a caricature. And actually,
no, I didn't say he's a caricature.
But I mean,
but how can you mention? I just made a giant declarative statement. Don't just bring up Brendan Gleeson, all right? Playing Ernest Borgnine.
I think you're correct. I think you're correct. I think you're absolutely correct in your statement. But I just when I saw the movie, what I noticed was the Brendan Gleeson character is his biggest fan, and I actually love that element of the movie that nothing ever bad happens to him. He's supposed to be his torturer in some way, but he's not.
No, he's not.
He's actually the guy who understands him the most. When I lived in Ojai, my neighbor was a guy named Charlie Rudd, and he was the Brendan Gleeson to Charles Manson. And he was an orange farmer now. And so I learned everything about Charles Manson. And he basically said, we became friends.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so as I was watching it, I was like, wow, it's just like Charlie Rudd. And when they did that there was a shot of Brendan Gleeson, as he's performing, he's kind of almost not, but he is mouthing along the song with him, because he loves him. He's actually his biggest fan. And actually, he was my favorite element of the movie. I actually loved him in the film. But I do think you're right about Joaquin Phoenix in this film.
And the scene almost the scene of the film is his interrogation of the little guy.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. That actually really disturbed me.
I laughed from the beginning of that scene to the end.
I laughed at all of it except for when Todd Phillips did a shot from behind the bench of him sitting on a phone book, which was not for anybody's benefit because it's never brought up and no one ever sees it in the courtroom. It's for our benefit, the audience. We're the ones who laugh at that. And that was sort of like another indictment by him.
I agree. But when he adopts the Foghorn Leghorn accent. That was hysterical.
The Melvin Belli.
Melvin Belli via Foghorn Leghorn, all right? He's doing Inherit the Wind. This old Southern lawyer. And you think they're going to just dine out on the pathos of the little guy, and then they make fun of the pathos because he did deserve to die. I'll agree to disagree. See, even you're smiling at it now.
I feel while listening to you guys that I am such a normie, that I'm with the overwhelming audience reaction to it. I found it excruciating, the most unpleasant movie I've seen in years.
I expected to feel like you.
And I felt like all these ideas you're talking about are there, that's true, but they kept imploding one after the other by the way they were approached. I've never really, I can't remember a time that I've reacted. I was so repelled by a film, and it was such a missed opportunity in so many ways. I don't think he has any feel at all for musical numbers or for directing a musical. I thought every single one of those numbers completely fell flat when they should have exploded. But I guess if we're following the ideas of what Todd Phillips wants to do and be the Joker, and we're the brunt of the joke in a way of the audience, is, oh, that's a really lofty, great idea. But when you put it into practice, I just found the movie like, what is going on?
Well, that's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought I was going to see, what I was been prepared to see. That everything would be an intellectual exercise in anarchy.
I think my reaction would have been different. I went with a friend who really wanted to see it. I had a day off. I thought, okay, fine, get the tickets. I did not want to go see it. And we saw the first show, the first day, before you'd heard the bad things coming out, but it had not reached peak horribleness, which it did in the 1 or 2 days afterwards. And so I might have, a week later, seen the film and had a very different reaction to it, though I can't imagine it being that way. I just thought everything about it was overscaled. It looked good. That's true. There was a professionalism to it and a craftsmanship that I liked, and I liked that. But the movie itself,
if Pauline responded to the first one, I think she would have responded to the second one. But that's a big if. I don't know if she would have.
That's Pauline. That's part of Pauline's perversity. We're talking about Pauline Kael, the New Yorker critic, and I think.
And I don't flippantly say she would like something because I don't know, and I usually assume I'd be wrong. But in this case, if she responded to the first one,
I think if this one of two ways. If this was Harley Quinn's movie and she was living in a musical and she was going after the Joker, and we're kind of really doing then another version of the King of Comedy, or maybe with the Sandra Bernhard character going after the Joker or whatever, because Lady Gaga was like, I don't know how many Harley Quinns there have been, but she has a really magical presence. And the naturalness of it, her singing voice.
No, I mean,
she's wasted.
I actually thought she was fantastic in the movie, but one of the things about it that was really cool was it was interesting. Harley Quinn is such a huge character that, like when Margot Robbie plays it, like she has to play it to the nth degree in order to register. And so there's this huge character, and like Lady Gaga plays it by throwing it away.
Yeah.
But she's so in tune with the character, she can throw it away.
Well, the movie became so much more interesting and compelling when she was on with him than it did. I really thought the entire movie should have been taken care of in the first 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. You get rid of the trial stuff. You get rid of bringing the people back. You get that all in the first 10 or 15 minutes. And then you have it set up for like a great sequel about him amassing power in Gotham and then doing a Godfather 2, taking all the money.
Now it's a Batman movie, and it was never going to be a Batman movie.
And I was, by a certain point, I was dying for Batman to come in. Mm-hmm. Dying for Batman. I thought, I don't know how much more time I can spend with Arthur Fleck.
Have either of you read the comic book, The Killing Joke?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know the scene as it was originally, the scene with Maury where he kills him in it. I wish I had seen the first Joker in theaters, but situation was that I couldn't. I ended up seeing it at home.
Because I've talked ad nauseum about that.
Well, the fact that you had this, both of you had this kind of electric audience experience of being
it was absolutely
in a pressure cooker.
It was absolutely the best movie experience as far as watching a movie with an audience of this decade.
Yeah, because what you're talking about is the magic of the movie theater, which we've been lamenting is something that's lost. And so this second Joker movie I saw in a theater with an audience, and I actually really liked it. The first one, I appreciated it more than anything.
I had a funny situation. I'm describing to my brother-in-law why I think the Joker works, like the first one. All right, so I'm doing the whole description that I just did, what we've done before. We both did the audience and whatever, and there's this whole thing because the audience wants him to shoot the guy. All right, which makes them complicit in the act. Yeah. Now, if you asked any of them individually, they go, "No, of course I don't want him." Yes, of course you do. All right, and if he doesn't, you're going to be disappointed, and everyone knows that, and it happens, and it's it's great, in that Clive Barker thing, the subversion at a massive level. And so I get through describing the whole thing to my brother-in-law. He goes, "Yeah, I saw it on an airplane." So. We're talking about this one movie that has this moment that needs to be seen in a theater. And if you try to talk to anybody, you're usually going to be doing a landmine of discussions where they all watched it privately in themselves. But not everybody, because like no other movie will ever make what the Joker made theatrically. It's the end of the end, to make $1 billion away in Joker money in the Joker world.
I guess compared to Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean,
movies are a lot more expensive now. All right, that was real. That was real asses and real seats, not a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. But I have to agree.
Not trumped up charges.
Yeah. But I agree with you completely. That scene, I was feeling meh about the Joker while watching it, and then it got to that talk show scene. And it just became so alive. I never really had that feeling before, so rarely, where my head was pressurized. My body was pressurized. I was waiting for the release.
And even the idea that Robert De Niro's character is a smarmy asshole, but he doesn't really deserve to die.
No, not at all.
But you want him to get his head blown off.
Yeah. But then watching it a second time, it's a different experience knowing that scene's going to come. And I valued the movie more on a second viewing when it all came together.
I haven't seen it again, but I bet you I would feel that way.
Everything's leading up to it.
To me, Joker 2 was like the loved one. You've just made Tom Jones. You can do anything in Hollywood. It's a big hit.
Oh, it's very much that.
And then you're allowed to do whatever you want. And he chooses to do The Loved One. And to make a movie about the mortuary industry in Hollywood. And Todd Phillips does that with this. He goes ahead and he makes his thesis statement. What I find a little bit, it's really not a problem because I'm happy with the movie. But I kind of wish he didn't have that. He could have taken Joker and then taken that clout and then gone and made something else original. That he didn't have to spend that on essentially the same franchise.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me to a degree. It's Scorsese with Taxi Driver getting the clout to make New York, New York, which was a big epic musical. And you realize that throughout history, directors are drawn to musicals. And most of them have made one, whether it's Coppola or whoever. Every director has a musical in them.
That's their white whale. It turns out being their white whale.
Their white whale. So
I expected to hate the music in this, and I actually found myself like you, Quentin. I was like surprisingly with it. I wanted to dislike the movie. I didn't want to exist in this kind of dreary environment. It was like, is that all you got? We're just gonna do that again, and we're gonna be like in jail in Arkham Asylum for the whole movie, and then we're gonna go into a courtroom.
I like courtroom dramas, and I like the fact that the third act was a courtroom.
Despite all of that, I was still won over by the movie. I'm deeply troubled by it.
But I would also
deeply troubled.
But I would also say that, again, it also is a snapshot of where I am right now. So I mean, when you're as cynical to the point of nihilistic as I am about new movies, yeah, of course, Joker 2 is catnip.
I feel the same way.
I enjoyed watching him burn it down. I felt like Todd Phillips was the Joker, and I was one of those. And Hollywood is on trial, and I was one of the clowns outside.
If you want to see
outside the courtroom,